We'll return to Star Trek following these messages.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Kingdom Come is 4 separate issues, 48 pages apiece. It was an all-immersive kind of lifestyle for me.
It blew people away. I mean, this was the most sought-after book there was.
This was something very new, very different.
No one had seen anything like that at that scale before.
It was amazing.
I never thought from anything that people would still be talking about this book 25 years later.
If you're here at Word Balloon, it's because you like comics, creators, conversation, pop culture subjects. Would you consider joining the League of Word Balloon Listeners? Patreon.com/wordballoon. When you subscribe, you'll also be part of the Word Balloon Book Club, where Brian Michael Bendis and I will pick a comic every month to review and discuss live with the League on this show. Join the League today, patreon.com/wordballoon. Thank you always for your support, League of Word Balloon listeners.
Star Trek will not be presented tonight, so that we may bring you the following special program.
Welcome back, everybody. Time again for another Word Balloon Live, and it's kind of a Word Balloon / Trek Watch because we're going to be talking about some Marvel books. But first, we got to talk about Star Trek and a fantastic new book that is starting in September. I got to find the cover to show everybody. I got to move Collin here. I'm going to move Collin over here.
It's all right. I'm movable.
There we go. Well, I know, and that way, when I show images, it'll only block me. But here we go, everybody. IDW's Last Starship coming your way next month. Can't wait. An excellent, intriguing idea that will feature the return of one James T. Kirk. What can it mean? What are the possibilities? We got some information. If you're hip to looking at Star Trek news, Hollywood Reporter did a fantastic article about this comic and these men, the men behind the story. There they are, Collin Kelly, Jackson Lanzing. Welcome back to Word Balloon.
Thank you so much for having us.
Always a joy, John. Thank you for having us.
Well, guys, you know I'm always thrilled to talk to you because this is what you guys do. You guys take existing continuity and create new stories. Your Star Trek Year 5 was amazing. And right now I'm blanking on titles in between that and Last Starship.
It's really just Star Trek between that. I think that's a nice thing.
Well, yes, of course.
It's just Star Trek.
Well, and you know, you guys did a great job with the crew. Cisco's crew. It was Star Trek. That was the title of it. Cisco's book.
Yeah.
And really, as I've told you guys many times, you and Cantwell, you guys are just doing a fantastic job. And Heather Antos editing, all the great artists as well, and really giving us quality Star Trek that is really incredible. And I promise you, everybody, I got a chance to look at that first issue of Last Starship, and it's no exception. It's an outstanding story. We're going to get into it. Yeah, again, first of all, we should talk with obviously the big moment, of course, and that's the return of this guy.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It's set in the future. I don't even know from a time standpoint because it's after the events of Picard season 3.
Yeah.
But it is before the events, before the time jump of Discovery going 900 years in the future.
It's about 100 years before the events of Discovery season 3. So if you're familiar with Star Trek Discovery, that can kind of place it. If you're not familiar with Star Trek Discovery, and I think this is what we're really excited about with Last Starship, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
What matters is that it's way past anything you know. Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, that is ancient history to these people. Now, that's treasured history. In fact, our main character is a bit of a history buff, and over the course of it, we'll kind of show that off, ideally in ways that don't feel too fanboy-y, right? Because that can be a crutch. What we're trying to do here is really make a story about the Federation in a period of time that is fundamentally distinct, that is new, that is unique, and that can be approached from anybody in the Star Trek canon. That said, again, it is anchored, like we like to do, on some piece of existing continuity. We're not trying to make something up wholesale. This is Star Trek, and we want it to feel like it's part of the canon. And that's where the burn comes from.
So the burn to everyone out there who might not be so up to date on their Star Trek discovery is an event, a catastrophe of galactic proportions. It impacts our universe, our galaxy, about 700 years after the Star Trek that we know and love.
If we put a human number to it, it's 3061, something like that. 3069, somewhere around there.
As the primary fuel source in the entire galaxy, dilithium, any active piece of dilithium explodes. In a single moment, 95% of every spacefaring ship, stations, colonies are obliterated. Trillions die in this horrific act, not even act, but natural disaster, right? Or is it? The question of what caused this, will it happen again? How can we recover? These are all the questions that our ship, one of the last surviving ships, in fact, gets to try and answer.
And I think what's fascinating about that to us is that puts that storyline, right? That thing that Discovery kind of leaves there. That's like, 100 years ago, everything blew up. Leaves this really exciting opportunity for us to take that and say, well, what was it like to live through that? What was it like to watch the Federation and be participating in the Federation's collapse? What is it like to see this thing that you thought was eternal and permanent and forever and good, right? This utopia, right? Because that's really what Star Trek is at its core. It's a vision of a more hopeful future.
You got it.
What happens when that begins to fail? And and becomes a terrible empirical dystopia. Like, that's
not fail because of the rot inside of people.
No, fail because no system lasts forever and no system can be unchallenged by conflict. Like, at a certain point, natural disaster, like context around you, social context, the tides of history will sweep things away. And that's what the burn is. It's this sweeping away that we know 100 years later will come back. They will solve the answer of the burn. They will bring the Federation back. Our book is unconcerned with that. Our book is concerned with the 100 years between that and watching a crew. And how does a crew live for 100 years? Read The Last Starship. But watching a crew go through that 100-year journey and understand what it's like to watch that whole thing fall apart. That to us was a way to tell something very real. And to get back to your question, who would that possibly hurt more than James T. Kirk? A man who has lived for this dream the same way that like Steve Rogers lives for the American flag, man. Like, it's the same thing. Kirk is the warrior poet, history making Odysseus figure of the Federation's first 100 years. And now 800 years later, 900 years later, he is returned to this time through reasons that we will not talk about until people read the book, but we're really excited for people to check it out. He is returned to watch all of that burn. And once we really realized that was the anchor into this story, that this wasn't a mercenary element of like, well, we got to have Kirk in there. We don't. Everything else is new in this book. Why put this guy in? It's actually against the fundamental ethos of the book. You put him in because he's the one it'll hurt the most. And he's the one who you'll be able to take the most interesting story with as he tries to reckon with that.
And it's a level of, I would imagine, grief and shock that we got a teensy bit with Steve Rogers in the 60s, but they had to cram so much story in 11 pages. They weren't even given like 20, the books were half and half back then. So Stan didn't really have the chance to really beyond a couple panels of, God, Bucky's gone, everyone I knew is gone or older. How do I, relate to this world? So I am very excited to see Kirk's own journey now 800 years in his future whatever the math is. Don't make me ask. I'm not going to do the math.
I do think that's
Clearly, we're not good at it either, so don't worry.
yeah, math isn't our strong point. We're science guys. But I do think you just nailed something else on the head, which is so important about this book, is that it is as far away from a Marvel or DC comic book as we can possibly pace and tell this story. We'll talk about other stuff, right? There's a time and place where that stuff absolutely rips, but this is a book that thrives in those quiet moments of introspection. We think of this book as a noir. It is a book about tragedy. It is a book about people, and it's a book about feeling that space to grieve, which lets it breathe and not pack every 22 pages with some bitchin' Star Trek. The Star Trek run we just finished, I do not think we could fit another piece of absolutely rad Star Trek in every one of those issues. This is not going to be that. This is not a continuation of the way we have been telling this story. This is going to be something new, and ideally something that'll really grip people from across the spectrum, not just people who have watched Discovery Season 4.
I wonder if it's because we have gotten comfortable, or because the machine with Chris worked so well, or whatever. But I think we really got to the end of our Star Trek run after year 5, and certainly after Star Trek, and found ourselves feeling like we were looking for the next challenge, the next thing. Like we talked about, like what does another Star Trek book look like, you know? And we kept coming back to the idea that we'd done it all. We'd introduced the Red Path, a thing that we'd imagined almost a decade earlier. That really, like, Collin almost invented full cloth, and then like I got to be the lucky game master whose Star Trek game he brought it into, right? But like we've been sitting there looking at that stuff for years, trying to figure out how to integrate it into the canon, how to make it something interesting. You know, we came into this, so I guess, through our own like love of Star Trek and our love of this thing, that when we had a chance to do it, we put all the ideas in. We really went through that Cisco book saying, if this was the last time they ever let us write Star Trek, what would we want to have left behind? And we put it all on the table. And I think it's really wild now to that as we put that down, we said, okay, we don't want to write a book called Star Trek anymore. Heather Antos was still, I think, she was not done with us. And she was like, yeah, but what does it look like if it's something else? And when this had been a thing that we'd all been kicking around for a while, just like, how far can you stretch a Star Trek book? How much can you make this book something that can have Francavilla covers on every A cover, right? How can you have something that feels fundamentally like a comic? How can we do a Star Trek comic that isn't an adaptation of the shows at all?
But I think that's the key, right? This is us no longer
a totally new thing, and we don't have any good ideas for that in the bank, because everything we were doing was for the shows or for our own ideas. Like, this had to be built from whole cloth. This had to be something we came up with now, about now, reckoning with now. And I think that that's a really exciting opportunity to be, or like a place to be with Star Trek. We found ourselves lucky to be in the right space. And I think having worked hard enough on this line for a while now, that Paramount, to their enormous credit, and obviously Heather, have trusted us to tell this story. You know, Heather's there with us in lockstep. Like, everything we do is her telling us the truth and us telling her the truth and us making the best thing, you know, possible. But we're all just trying to make something new and fresh and interesting.
Well, honestly, again, having read this first issue, I really hope to God there are guys at Skydance that are now taking over Paramount that are paying attention to this, because truly, and this is my editorial comment, everybody, the burn was weird. Well, the burn was intriguing when it was introduced in Discovery, that all of a sudden all the dilithium explodes, and how the hell do you have interplanetary travel? And it cuts every planet off from the thread that connects all these planets, the ability to go and speak to each other and everything. So, you know, that was interesting. And then we get the resolution. I'll keep it quiet. If people want to watch Discovery and discover for themselves, that's fine. I didn't like where it went, but that's, again, my own editorial comment. But the problem that you guys face, you're not at the solution. You are at what happens right after the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor. What is it like in that immediate now? And that's why I appreciate what Chem Dog was saying here. That everything that's happening now is happening now.
I mean, it's true.
I think an interesting thing, actually, what just ran into my head, Jack and I were speaking of that other franchise earlier today with their little show, Andor. I guess it was fine. But the way that you can watch Andor, we know how Andor is going to end. That's not the point. The point is the drama of how we get there. And then ideally, right, if you go right into Rogue One, as so many of us did, you're like, holy shit, this movie is so much better now, understanding the depth and the journey of this. Yeah. So that, I think, we are fleshing out a lot of this universe. We are telling this story that will ideally, help shade what that answer to the burn was. But once again, I think you nailed it on the head. Not our monkeys, not our problem.
Yeah, I like that was, I think, what really freed us of this was saying, in no world can this book be what was the burn. So we do this thing in issue 1 where we introduce, because that's obviously first question off the list of every captain, what few of them survive this, right? Is, okay, well, what is this? Who did this? Who do we attack? You said, like, after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. I would argue that this is much closer to when like when a virus hits, like when a pandemic.
Who did COVID to us?
Yeah, when an asteroid hits the planet.
Sure.
Right? It is a blameless, a super volcano goes off. This is a blameless event. There is no one that I can turn to and say, oh, that person did this to us. And the Federation, because they're specifically not supposed to be that kind of reactionary government, they're instead going to react to this by all getting together and being like, we don't know the answer. We're going to figure out the answer. In the meantime, we're going to keep people alive. We're going to keep this universe living. We're going to keep this Federation functioning. And that's the challenge that our characters get to answer. This idea of what is the burn, we know fundamentally, because Discovery, because this is the box you're in when you hit continuity. But I think I think we've found it to be a very fortunate box in this story's case. Thank you, Discovery. Because Discovery says, we're going to be concerned with that. So that within 100 years, no one figures this out. Most people who experience the burn and live die not knowing how it happened. We know this. That's tragic. That's inherently dark. That's inherently sad. That's inherently hard in a Star Trek universe. That's very dystopic, a lack of knowledge, right? And so we thought, well, isn't that a great thing to eventually pay off? And so if you look in issue 1, we have a setup to a plot. They mention a place where they are trying to figure this out. It's called Deep Space Hope. They've retasked a whole space station for it. They've given it to one of the best captains in the fleet. That will surely solve that. Sure. And if you don't think we're coming back to that, you haven't read our work. Clearly, that place is a thing that we are going to experience and understand. And readers can know, like Collin said, because they know the ending. They know Deep Space Hope doesn't work. We know that. So the question is, what is the loss of that place? How does that function? And I think telling that kind of story, so different for Star Trek. It's very different for us. And trying to do that within the sort of hope, the context of a ship that has to keep that hope alive. That hope is all they've got left. And they are the hope for Starfleet. They are the hope for the dream. That to me is that's what makes this book special. I think hopefully that's what makes this book come alive for new Star Trek readers and not just the fan base. So obviously we love the fan base.
It's easy. It's easier to have hope and optimism when you're standing on the bridge of a nigh omnipotent super ship, right? With a 400 ship armada at your back. Hope important. Much harder to hold on to that when you are alone against a galaxy that probably does not care about your opinions anymore.
Are we allowed to say anything about the captain?
Oh, we can say anything.
Yeah, okay. Because I'm
we'll talk about the whole crew. Yeah.
Okay. Go. Yeah. No. And inform me more. But we are introduced to Captain Sato, who clearly has a tie to your previous Star Trek run, and also intriguing that we are getting an Andorian captain.
An Andorian, Vulcan, human, Krill hybrid captain. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So Delacorte Sato is an idea that we've had for a long time in some capacity or another, which is that if in the Star Trek universe long enough, and they've sort of established that a lot of Star Trek species can all intermingle, right? And they can all have children.
Yeah.
So if you can have lots of different alien hybrid children, eventually on a long enough time scale, the Federation should produce something of a Federation species of like a, I mean, obviously not species, but like
American.
A long enough timeline, right? Exactly.
Yeah, like a bunch of different species that you would eventually just sort of be like, there's enough random possibilities in this thing that we kind of have to become post-species in the Federation after a fashion on a long enough time scale. And obviously we don't really see that by the time the burn is done. Like when we get to Discovery, we have I think very notably a Bajoran Cardassian hybrid, which we've seen before and we kind of know exists, but it is like, I think indicates a sort of peace between those species, which is nice for a future idea, right?
Absolutely.
But this idea that it should get much deeper and more complicated than that felt like a great opportunity for us to say, here's a melting pot. I mean, very much like America, the premise here is that we're not all supposed to stay ourselves. Like we're supposed to become a melting pot. Right. That, and I think the Federation represents that so deeply. So having Delacorte Sato represent that so deeply felt really important. A guy who could walk into a room with a Vulcan and talk logic, and then turn around to Andorians and speak to them with their, in their way, and who can speak to the Gorn in their way, and can stand not as a person who has a home world, but as a person who has a home society, a true citizen.
A true citizen of the Federation.
Absolutely.
And
so then again, who would the loss hurt the most, right?
Right. Sure. And someone who when we meet him, effectively, it's very exciting for us because, no one has fired a phaser. There's not been an act of violence within the Federation. And the Federation is everywhere, effectively, everywhere except Gorn.
Which I love. Yeah.
Right. And like, that is the true dream. So the idea of having what a dream for Jean-Luc Picard, right? Like what a dream of our Federation, absolutely post-violence. And that is the era, that is where Sato is truly the best of them.
Yeah.
Right. So it's so, just for us, the flavor of having a true dream captain, like the absolute apotheosis of what Starfleet should produce. And then on page 5, we blow it the fuck up. Right? Like, that felt so good for us. So once we realized that's who we wanted for our captain of our ship, notice James T. Kirk, not the captain of this ship.
Exactly.
So, yep. Hey, in case you forgot him, he's right there.
I'm going to keep going on that image.
Very important, very cool character that we felt could really anchor the new ship.
And also that because the Federation has been at peace for so long, the leaders may not be equipped to handle this kind of problem. You need, to use Captain Picard's comment, cowboy diplomacy, and you need this lone gunman to kind of step in and show them, well, this is how we used to do it in the 23rd century.
So I'm realizing weirdly that this book has an influence that I did not realize it had until this exact conversation. But knowing us, I'm kind of shocked we didn't recognize that we were lifting from one of our primary sources, which is to say, I think we might have accidentally written Demolition Man. I think that there's a certain part of this that is, and I mean this mostly facetiously. Colin's just gone. Yeah, that was enough to just get rid of him.
This man's obsession with Demolition Man has been forever.
That's awesome.
I think that in some ways that's what we're playing.
You're right. There's some Demolition Man in this 100%.
But I think we just try to take that idea quite seriously. Just to say the Federation is looking for a time in which there is peace, unity, where everything in the galaxy is a member of the Federation and everybody works for mutual benefit. We've all evolved past violence and risk and sadness and fear and all these things that Roddenberry hoped one day we would all just evolve past. So we get you to the very, very end of the Gene Roddenberry journey, and then we blow it up. Yep. And to me, and I think again, that's because that's what the burn feels like to me. When I watched Discovery 3, that shot of all those starships, that felt like a gut punch. I've been very open about it. Like that plot was, I was never sure if I was a fan of that plot or just deeply hurt by that plot. I could never, it's such a hard plot. It means that so much of what the Federation did in The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager on a long enough time scale doesn't matter. It all
wiped away.
It all is wiped clean, and that's really hard to, as a lifelong fan of Star Trek, that's a hard pill to swallow.
Sure.
It certainly makes Discovery's journey have like the most stakes ever, but it's to the shows that you sort of grew up with, if you're me, like that was a heavy one. And so looking at that and trying to take that seriously and say, okay, let's say you were living through like a perfect utopia and then that happened. Wouldn't you need someone who could imagine what it's like to be in say a Batleth fight, right? Wouldn't you need to know somebody who knows what it's like when two ships go up against each other in a nebula and diplomacy isn't enough? Like, at what point does Kirk's experience override the evolutionary futurism and hope of the world that he has birthed? That is, I think, the like drag of the book in many ways. That conversation between Sato's methods, a man who looks at James T. Kirk and goes, you solve things the way that like the Trojan army did. I solve things in a way that is involved 10,000 years past that, right? And Kirk, who says, well, you may think that I'm a relic, but my kind of war has come to your shores. And if I'm not describing the relationship between Sandra Bullock and Sylvester Stallone in the hit movie Demolition Man, I don't know what to tell you.
As long as Dennis Rodman doesn't show up, I think we're going to be okay.
We're good. We're good.
All right, there you go. No,
franchise wars.
And honestly, listen, again, everybody, I must stress this because I don't want Collin and Jackson to suffer any editorial comments that I make. But this was the incongruency of Discovery suddenly showing up. And you made the point yourself, dude, because I kept comparing Discovery and Michael Burnham as a Viking showing up 900 years later. And it's like, man, God, we're glad you're here. How did you solve things? And a Viking, not Burnham herself, but a Viking being like, well, what we would do is we'd get a goat and we'd sacrifice it to the god Thor, and we would hope for a better harvest. And usually things worked out. And that's kind of how it felt to me.
That is pretty much Discovery's entire MO, right? Like, oh, fuck, a problem. What are we going to do? Like, I don't know, huff some mushrooms?
We're gonna Discovery. I mean, Discovery is the emotional ship, and I think that's the thing that over time I've actually really learned to love about it. I think that's its brand. Is that what I would have done with Discovery? Probably not. Is it what they did and ultimately has a flavor that I think did really resonate for a lot of Star Trek fans and like new fans too? Yeah, I think there's a that's a ship that's the ship that says, above all other things, if I believe in this hard enough, it'll happen. Right?
Yeah.
Last Star Trek. No, that's sort of my read on it.
I respect it, Jack.
Keep going.
But
I think to draw a sort of parallel, or I guess to draw a contrast, the emphasis of Last Starship is to say, in this era, no amount of wishing will make it so. I didn't mean to make a Picard pun there.
Yeah, I think you did it.
But I guess we got to write that in the book
It
now.
fits.
But that is, I think, the trick. No amount of wishing will make the Federation hold together. No amount of crossing our fingers is going to do it. We know it will collapse, and that inevitability, I hope, really drives a fun. We're almost like an anti-fun. Like I hope it drives a dread at the center of the book that makes you wonder how these people will possibly get out with any hope left alive.
Mario wants to know: is this an ongoing series?
It is.
Wow.
With an ending in mind. So more so than our previous ongoing Star Trek, this one we know the whole story. So it's really a matter of what time scale we decide to tell that story in.
Okay.
Right now we have a wide open issue number to do that with, and a lot of support from Heather and IDW, and we're just going to tell the best story we can in the size that we feel like is accurate.
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say,
they've kind of given us the frame to do that, which is lovely.
Excellent. I noticed, and much like your Star Trek Year 5 series and stuff, We have a Tholian on as part of the
can't
crew.
get rid of them. We love those guys.
I'm thrilled. Again, that's what you guys do. And also, I'm glad you mentioned the Gorn. I didn't know if that was off limits or not. But that's the cool thing of that Captain Sano is having this negotiation with a Gorn captain and basically saying, look, man, the entire rest of the galaxy is with us. You guys are the last ones. What do we got to do to like get you guys at the table? Because we want you at the table. And that's great because that is pure Star Trek. That is pure Federation.
It's empathy. It's kindness. It's like it's leading forward with all the things that you. Yeah, exactly. Yes. You get it.
Yeah. No,
and then it comes up.
Exactly. And then
I hope,
idea. I think we'll get together for dinner.
Yeah.
But we were right there. What the hell?
And considering Strange New Worlds' current kind of infatuation with Gorn and how Gorn are and what Gorn and all that stuff, I think there's some really interesting like mirroring. You can kind of see the beginning of the negotiation there, and unfortunately, see how it ended here.
Chemdog wants to know what no Organian.
They're gone. They're gone.
Okay, there you go.
We put them to bed. They were killed by KLS. They ain't coming back. The space-time energy aspects done.
Right,
at least
with the gods.
At least for our continuity. You know, when the TV shows decide to bring an Organian back, then that'll be their business. I think Lear's whole story really anchors on the idea that ultimately the Organians are gone. And so, in I think respect to Talir's story from our Star Trek book, it always feels like we should let that be canon until it's not.
Understood. No,
right.
That's great.
Kirk is dead until he's not.
I love how you guys went to the future and Cantwell went to the past with red shirts.
Yeah,
and, and again, I've read the first issue of Red Shirts, and
it's so fun,
dude. It's so good.
Well, it's again, the three of you guys you guys get the gestalt of Trek. You guys get it. I'm sure if you guys were coming up in the 70s, you would have been writing those essays in the Best of Trek paperbacks that I grew up on and stuff.
Yeah.
We big zine heads.
I just got the they just recorded the music from the original series onto vinyl for the first time.
Oh wow, sure.
They did like new recordings of the old sheet music. It's gorgeous. Malachi Ward, who did a lot of our covers, did the vinyl art.
Oh,
and
wow.
inside of it has all of these episode guides to each of the episodes. I was like, who wrote these? They're like perfect paragraph summaries of each of these TOS episodes. And at the very end, it says Bijou Trimble. And I was like, there you go, right? Of course. It's like
legend. Yep.
This is the thing. Like we're all operating in this continuity of love for this thing. And no doubt I would have written for a Star Trek magazine in a heartbeat. Instead, we get lucky enough to write the comics.
I know. Yeah.
Were you guys in Vegas?
God, I wish we were.
Not this year.
Mad.
Okay.
I'm so mad we weren't. Every year I plan on it, and every year something comes up that we can't get out of. And this year was no different. I had COVID.
Collin, how's the baby?
Baby's wonderful. You can't hear him right now, but he's shrieking in joy right in the other room.
Yeah, I understand. And it's those first couple of years, that's
yeah.
I hope you're getting sleep here and there when you can.
Oh, of course. I'm a master. I'm a master at napping. But it's been it's definitely a journey, but also I think, a really interesting look on hope and optimism.
Excellent.
Right? Like,
boy or a girl?
Starts to reflect on your work in a lot of ways. And I think that's one of the cool things about Last Starship is it really does. It feels really personal in a way to us, in a way that I think some of our other books have been really about the not entertainment, but like really about. I'm getting in the weeds here. We are hugely excited about this book. Like every time we finish a script, we are just absolutely over the moon for it. That's why I keep like giggling over here when we're talking about this stuff for folks who maybe aren't.
I'm smiling the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. We're smiling the whole time because this is such an incredible.
Because it sounds great, and again, having read that first issue, I love the directions you guys are going in. Absolutely, your baby, boy or a girl?
Oh, little boy, born on my birthday.
I lost the sound. It's my fault.
Oh,
say it again, Collin.
A little boy born on my birthday.
I don't know why I can't hear you guys right now.
Check.
Hold
Can
on,
you hear
that's
me?
probably me. I'm going to switch my setting, and hopefully that will help.
Yeah, something.
Sorry, everybody. As always, hopefully I will not echo, but I will. All right, let's hear something.
Check one.
Can
you hear me?
I don't know why I can't hear you guys. This is insane.
Oh, huh.
Did I
Perhaps
lose? No,
your
I haven't. And you guys can hear me
AirPods.
okay, right?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Excellent. Jesus, I don't know what the hell
Hey,
happened.
fans out there in
We've
the
gone radio
universe,
silent. Well, I know. I'm glad Chemdog can hear fine. That's great. I can't, and being the host, that's a bit of an issue.
Now we can talk all sorts of smack
here?
about you, and you have.
Sorry, everybody. Let's
idea
we'll
what
get
we're
through these
saying.
technical difficulties.
Welcome to Word
as quickly
Balloon
as
with
possible.
Jackson and Collin. We're the new hosts of
hold
Word
on.
Balloon. We've managed to lock John out of his
Okay,
own
so it's not.
Yes.
That is weird. It doesn't seem to be on my end.
Our
Our
hacking
time
has
is now.
But exactly. Yeah, you guys can say a lot of shit about me.
Yeah.
Right now. It's fantastic. You know why John sucks? Let me go off on a tangent for a minute.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'll never talk about
Here, what I'll do
never
is
talk
I
about
will
Star Trek
leave
shows,
and come back. Hopefully that will not end the stream.
All right.
But let me see what we can do here.
Bye.
So I will be right back.
All right. Now that it's just us in the room,
I thought he'd never leave.
just us and everyone out there watching at home.
This is this is weird. This is cool.
If you could have one non-Federation starship as your own to command, Jackson, what would it be?
I mean, it's really hard to argue with the efficiency of a Borg sphere.
Now I can hear you, boys.
Yeah.
Hey, can you hear me? Check.
Yes, indeed.
Nice.
Oh, hey, all right, and here we go. Kari says, well, hello. And yeah, Chemdog was all excited that I was gone. I understand, man.
Yep. Now, no one tell John what we talked about.
Yep, secret. It's our secret. It's our secret.
You know, last week I had Fraction on, and a similar thing happened. Or actually, I had to like answer the door, so I put down the microphone to answer my apartment door. And Fraction's like, all right, let's all talk about John for the next 10 seconds without John here. And it cracked me up. I was laughing my ass off. So
we just pretended that we had taken over your show and hacked your computers, which we definitely did not do. We didn't do it. We were not responsible for that.
Carrie says, I'm completely behind and lost in the Star Trek universe. Given that this is written from a historian's point of view, this sounds like a great place to jump in. But I have to know, is Q involved? I love Q.
Q is not involved.
Q is not involved.
Q is not involved. Q is not concerned with this area of Star Trek as far as we can tell. The Q continuum seems to be concerned with other things by the time that this happens. They mention that a Q in Discovery, that a Q hasn't been seen in over a century. So that kind of locked Q out of our story. I am sad to say that though, because I also love Q.
John, can we share a little fun Q fact with you and the audience? So we are in a lot of conversation with CBS, obviously, like we kind of always know, and we kind of stay on the front of what they're doing so that we don't go stepping in any gunk. So, but fans will notice that Mr. Trelane.
Oh, wait, we're gonna spoil Strange New Worlds. The episode from just a few.
That's okay. We've been talking about it.
I'm just letting the audience know.
Yeah. Spoiler alerts are Strange New Worlds season 3, episode 3. But 2, episode 2.
Actually 2, yeah, the wedding.
But at the very start in our Godmoot issue with Trelane says, effectively like, I'm gonna biff it, but he says effectively like my family left, right? Like I'm the last one here. My family went away. My parents left. I'm here.
I like it.
We knew at the time that he was a Q. So when we said at the very start of our series, the Q all left, and then Trelane says, "Oh yeah, my parents left." What eagle-eyed viewers might have been able to put together is like, wait a minute, is Trelane a Q? And if you had put those little flavors together, you would have been ahead of Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 3. It's a small little thing, but I'm tickled that kind of connectivity actually did kind of pay off. I
thought it was a fun little bit of synergy that then paid off in a really lovely way when they introduced that bartender named after us. So that was also a trip. That whole episode and us have a lot of connective tissue from about a year before that episode.
That's terrific. I'm glad to hear that, man, and I'm glad to hear you have that kind of relationship with the guys.
It was wild to see that swing back around.
That's excellent, man. I'm gonna have to rewatch and catch that callback. That's wonderful. Because immediately you'll forgive me, guys, but my mind went to Peter David's excellent book Q Squared,
Of
And
course.
it was kind of intimated that.
It absolutely
and
was.
actually, I kind of liked the way Peter David wrote it, where it was almost like Q probably had like an affair with Trelane's mother, and maybe Trelane, that he was almost like this distant father that really didn't have a relationship with his
it's like
kid,
a
but he knew it was
Zeus.
his kid.
It's like a Zeus and a swan kind of situation. It's like,
I like that.
Zeus did boink your mother, and you are a demigod.
Yes.
Technically, he was a goose at the time.
I like this. I think that's.
I feel like John Delancey's Q would absolutely put the moves on someone as a goose.
Yeah. Well, even another Q, and that, maybe like secret relationship sort of thing and whatever. But regardless, that was their story.
I have a weak spot for Trelane. I love fancy, poncy little boys.
Sure.
That sounded so bad.
Yeah. Didn't sound great.
No,
Didn't sound great.
I like.
Colin, don't worry. Our audience took it in the way it was.
No, we're definitely not going to make Colin Kelly likes little boys.
Fancy, poncy
little boys, even more.
It's not going to be the headline of this at all.
That killed me. That was wonderful.
Really not.
Great.
But
internet.
He was a very fancy Trelane, and I also.
Oh my God, yeah. And Rice Davies, he was great. He was fantastic.
He was great.
I hear you, man. I'm excited for the Con audio drama that's starting in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, man, me too. I'm excited too.
Any sort of early eyeballs or ears?
None. That we have no, because we're not touching that character, so we have not needed to worry about that at all. They haven't needed to worry about us. I'm very excited because just as a huge fan of Nick Meyer, I can't wait to. I know he's been writing this for a while. I've been looking forward to this, and obviously, like Wrath of Khan is a
absolute
Trek effort. And I'm really excited to see what he has to say all these years later about the character. And like Naveen Andrews is a really good casting, so I'm very excited to see what they do with that.
And the woman that plays Marla McGivers from For All Mankind, who is the great defector of that series and everything. No, she's a great actress too. No, I'm and also bringing Takei and Tim Russ in it and everything, and having it. Oh, if you hear, forgive me for spoiling. If you hear the trailer. The framework of going back to this prequel is, I guess, a historian on the Excelsior saying, hey, we got to go back because there's a kernel of this you need to know. And it's after the events of Star Trek VI.
Right.
So that's why it's like, okay, well, how are they doing this and everything? But yeah, hey, any excuse to get Captain Sulu back in the chair, hell yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it'd be criminal to do a voice thing and not bring in the best voice. Like come on.
Yeah.
Hard to beat George Takei.
I am so bummed that I learned much later after meeting him and didn't have the opportunity to ask him about his years dubbing foreign films, especially, like he did the Rodan films, I believe.
Yep.
And, so yeah, I am fascinated by that whole thing. So it would be cool to hear him talk about that even more. So, anyway, well, that's essentially I suppose all we can, unless you wanted to describe more of the crew of the show.
We can run down the rest of the crew real fast for anybody who thinks that sounds interesting. We'll do it real quick.
Yeah.
First officer's Wowie Carter. Wowie Carter is they are like if Wesley Crusher was raised to be Superman. Like they are brave and fundamentally fearless. They believe they have evolved beyond fear, much like sort of Gene Roddenberry's humans tend to think. And they're really our reference point for Earth and how Earth deals with the events of this series, which we know from Discovery will be a really tragic story. And so this young kind of optimistic character sits at the center of that. And their father is a big deal on Earth. You'll meet him in issue 1.
Okay.
We have at our communication station, we have Valkis, daughter of Nun. She is a Klingon. She is a long 700 years later follower of the Red Path. And we get to see how this has kind of evolved from really any kind of warrior mentality to something much more akin to a kind of a Buddhist philosophical journey that she's been on. She is a Klingon of complete peace and communication. That is why she is so vital to that position. And of course, it's a very hard position to go to hold on to as your entire universe explodes and war kind of becomes, or violence becomes, de rigueur of the universe.
We've got a Romulan character named V to Galathon. V, you won't meet in issue 1. You'll meet her in issue 2. So I'm not going to say anything about her except that she is very good at shooting things with starships. She's one of the few people in the universe who has any kind of experience at it. And yet she has never once fired at a living thing. And what that experience is of being a sort of Romulan raised on Vulcan, now known as Nevar. They're just one species, so all you need to know is like, oh, the Romulans and Vulcans are the same thing now. But they still have cultures as Vulcans and Romulans. So she's a Romulan, and she sort of has that culture, but she's been raised in a more peaceful context, and is going to learn how far she's willing to go.
We have a very cool helmsman in Hannah, who is a Bajoran. We kind of get to explore a little bit about what Bajoran faith is and what Bajor means in this future. While at the same time, we don't really generally get a lot of fun Bajorans. They tend to be a little on the serious side. So writing a fun Bajoran was a real delight.
Cool. And then finally, we have our doctor, Zed, who is, you're going to again meet in issue 2. And he's one of the last living members of the Starfleet Medical Corps. And when you get that group of weirdos and grumpies down to their very last living survivors, you get some very interesting remnants. And so Zed is, the way we've been describing him is he's sort of like if like Anthony Bourdain was a Ferengi and was addicted to way too many of his own drugs. He's a really complicated character. I think people are going to have fun with him.
Isn't it?
We're certainly having a lot of fun with him.
It's always been really cool in Star Trek where you can like get super loaded and then like, oh shit, duty calls, sober now. Like, come on.
Zed takes advantage.
Yeah, that takes it. If replicators can create any pharmaceutical in the galaxy, then I mean, like, look, man, you got to know the wares.
And then we have one secret character in engineering that people are going to have to wait to find out about.
Fair enough. Outstanding. Carrie is intrigued by the combinations, so that's great.
There you go. We got you.
Hilarious, boys. Well, once again, everybody, because we will transition to Marvel. I have a feeling audio-wise, I might break this up into 2 parts, but it's IDW's Last Starship, a new Star Trek series from Lansing and Kelly, and it starts next month. And it's a pisser. And again, it features the return of this guy, James T. Kirk. What could it mean? What possibilities of James T. Kirk facing a dystopian future as he is? Oh yeah, absolutely. I understand. You guys are on a tight budget as far as time goes, but I did want to acknowledge a couple of series that wrapped up with that you guys were doing. For instance, your Thunderbolts run, and is Humphreys doing the new Thunderbolts series?
Yes. Though now it's just called New Avengers.
It's New Avengers. Yeah, that's right. And it's a new Bucky team.
Yes.
No, honestly, I really enjoyed your series because it really felt like another movie. And so I would tell people that when the trade comes out, that this is a great series to pick up if you really want to see, a group similar to. I mean, it's still very Marvel Comics. Not everybody that's in Red Guardian's not in there, for example.
Right.
And also, I just okay, there you go. And shame of me if I didn't remember that. But regardless,
he's in World. He's in.
Yeah, World Strike, which was the first, is kind of Thunderbolts World Strike, which is our first volume, and then Thunderbolts Doomstrike's the second volume.
Right.
While Doomstrike is just what wrapped up. If folks are really like, man, that Thunderbolts movie was really cool, I want more with that team, you can find a lot of that in Thunderbolts World Strike.
Yeah.
Trade paperback available now. Go ahead and tell your local comic shop that you want to join Bucky's quest.
I love, and I told you guys this the last time we talked, I love the fact that it's Bucky's grudge against Doom. And just like in the first Thunderbolts thing you did where it was Bucky against the Red Skull.
Yes.
And it's like, no, I really love the agency you guys have given Bucky. And, I mean, it started with your guys' Captain America crossover too. So
it felt like a great opportunity our time with Bucky was really a joy because it felt like he was a character who was begging for some agency in his own life, who had been kicked around a lot and who had been looking for a way to fight for something he believed in, but never like isolating what it was he actually believed in that he was willing to fight for. And I think he's been having that conversation so many times through the Kyle Higgins run and through the Alish Cott run and on and on and on. Bucky's been in this framework of self-examination. And when we took on that story, we wanted to come out the other side of that story with a character who could then go and do something with the realization that he had been, they sort of come to out of the process. And so that's where our run on Bucky really came from, was how do we take this guy who has never really known what to fight and feels kind of like a weapon or a glove that people wear to fight other things. How can we get him to a place where he can start picking his own targets? And by having him pick the Revolution in Captain America, take that guy out, and then take his place, and then have to play his game, have to learn how to play this game on a much wider, larger scale, learn how to outthink the forces of the market and the forces of culture and the forces of technology and the forces of power across his world. Once he'd done that, he really felt like he'd earned a sort of Nick Furyism, which was like now, and Nick Fury has taken other people's missions. I mean, classic Nick Fury is, but like the Nick Fury that we think of as the sort of head of S.H.I.E.L.D., he's picking his missions. He's going, I'm looking at the world and I think this is a target and this is a target and this is a target and this is what we need to do to keep people safe. And that's what Bucky starts doing. He looks at the world and says, I am sick and tired of dealing with the Red Skull. Let's put this guy in the ground. I'm sick and tired of dealing with Dr. Doom. I'm not going to let him take over the world without anybody fighting him, And I think those stories, those felt like they came earnestly from him. They were the kind of stories you couldn't necessarily tell with Steve. And that's why we bring Steve in to the last issue there.
Yeah.
To have him reflect on it and be like, this is not how I do things, Bucky. And have Bucky be like, right, it's how I do things. We now have separate methodologies. And Bucky Barnes can call himself whatever he wants. The Revolution, the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, whatever he wants to call himself. He's now created an identity that lives beyond the reaction to his trauma. And that was our mission. That's all we wanted to do with my character, is move him past that story, because he's been stuck in that story since he was born, basically.
Yeah. No, you're right. And it's nice to see him take the lead and Steve assist him. Yeah. And that's a nice wrinkle. And also I appreciated was it Natasha that said it, or Sharon, that, hey, we're not going to be able to beat Doom. And it's like, no, but I want to rough him up that he's got a couple new scars that we put on him, and know that it was me and my team that did it. That's great, man. That's classic Bucky. That's
that quote we attribute to Winston Churchill, "Be the wrench." Not an actual Churchill quote, just something we say, but that's the, I think that's the fun of that, is that when Bucky has those kind of things, you can be like, well, Bucky did hear this from Winston Churchill once. And you're like, well, most characters don't get to have that in their back pocket. Like no one else, like Sharon can only talk to one other guy who can say that, and he's Captain America.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah, that's great. I also really loved Power Man Timeless. Truly, man. Well, also it's great, and in a weird way, it's almost a companion piece to your Kang stuff, because you've taken Luke Cage and made this really weird cosmic story of what normally is this very street level guy. Yep. And the directions you guys went in, I'm sorry, it looked like it was supposed to be 5 and then it only became 4.
Yeah,
unfortunately. You still stuck the landing, guys, as far as I'm concerned. So it really, I hope people discover it as a trade. And much like Frankencastle that Remender did years ago, it's tough when you take somebody out of a familiar setting, and this is a fish out of space story, as far as Luke is concerned. But yeah, no, I really think you guys, it still felt like Luke Cage dealing with much bigger stakes, but also at the same time a very human story that he tells. It's his daughter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a to us, it was a chance to take this character that we've loved forever. We're big Iron Fist and Power Man fans. Like, Power Man and Iron Fist is like
partnership, fighting together.
Someday we would really love to do a Power Man and Iron Fist series, right? Same way that we'd really love to do a Blue Beetle Booster Gold series, right? Someday we love taking on best friends. So someday I really hope we get these opportunities, because those are characters we really love to play with. That this was sort of the closest we were going to get to Power Man when Tom Brevoort, who's been our editor at Marvel largely for the last couple of years, and to whom we owe an enormous amount of gratitude, and we've learned so much from him. It's been wild. That project came to us because he came to us over Timeless a couple of years ago and said, "Hey, create anything you want. Just make it a portmanteau of Marvel characters. Like, create a character where it's this guy and this guy equals this guy." And we came up with a bunch of different ideas, most of which were takes on Power Man and Iron Fist, if I'm being honest. I think we had at least 3 different versions of Danny Rand somewhere in there. But Power Man, as soon as we came up with it, we knew it was the one. Because the idea of saying Power Man of Luke Cage and then literalizing that idea, that this is a man, he has the name Power Man because he has all the powers. He has the powers that you could get if you could transfer powers in the Marvel Universe. So what can you get? You can get the Hulk's blood. You can get the powers of the Sentry. You have to take the chemical and you have to balance with the Void, but you can get that. That's an available power set.
That's a superhero serum, super soldier serum.
The super soldier serum, basically. And you basically got the Captain America super soldier serum through Hulk. So there's your 2. And then what's the third thing you could reasonably steal? It's the Iron Fist.
Absolutely, the power of the Iron Fist.
The Iron Fist is takeable. The Iron Fist does it. That's how they get it. So take it from a dragon. So what if you had to take it from your best friend? And now you have the Iron Fist. All right, well, that feels like some fertile ground to tell a story. We'd love to tell that story someday. So we tell this story. We tell the last story of him, right? The story of Power Man versus the immortal Moon Knight, basically the Iron Fist at the end of the world. These 2 men fight. Danny loses. Power Man wins. Luke has to put his best friend down, but it saves the universe. He punches the Celestial in the heart and comes out the other side of that. And Marvel said, "What's next?" And we gave them, we developed the story several times because it was a wide open space. There were so many different kinds of stories we could tell. And so we had a version of this that was very street level. And we had a version of this that was very almost like an Avengers story. It was like a big event story. And we had, we had a bunch of different versions of this, and we kept circling, and Tom just kept being like, "Keep digging. It's not there yet. Like, keep digging. You'll find something. You'll find really interesting ground. Like, you'll find something to do. This feels like this could be anybody's story. Why is it this guy?" And
then we got the interesting caveat being, and then they were like, "Ring, ring, ring. By the way, Danny Rand just died."
Yeah. So he can't be.
Excuse me.
Yeah, he can't be meeting up with Danny, which is sort of all of our narratives were based on. Well, he's obviously looking for Danny. Danny is he's the John Carter to this situation. If he's coming back and he's like, or he's the Terminator in the situation. He's coming back and being like, "I got to stop Danny Rand." But if Danny Rand's dead, then he has no purpose in this world. Yeah. What is his purpose? And that, to us, once we figured that story out, and we were like, okay, well, now if it's about looking for purpose and going out into space and finding that this person with all this power who's ascended to this cosmic level, you punched a Celestial in the heart, you traveled through time, you're the last superhero at the age of superheroes, and now you're in this world that doesn't need you. You're going to go off into space. You're going to discover the weird stuff. You're going to see the celestial architecture that undergirds the solar system. And you're going to alternately save that, or it's going to turn against you as you deal with this third element, this villain who's coming in and threatens the whole system, Aeon the Knife, who was sort of our take on like the ultimate inhuman. We sort of brought those pieces crashing together and said, like, what about this? And Marvel, to our infinite surprise, was like, go for it. And really like ran us down that path. And so ultimately, like, is it shorter than we all wanted it to be? Of course. Sometimes you can't sustain a book. This book, it didn't sell. Like, it just didn't sell. Like, people didn't buy this book. That happens. Yep. Sometimes you're just controllable. Yeah. So I wish we'd been able to tell the book at 5 issues. We told the book at 4. It is what it is. I think ultimately, I hope that when people read, I think like you, I hope that when people read it in trade, they can see a really weird cosmic Luke Cage story that does ultimately end with some pretty big fundamental Marvel stuff and some real emotion underneath it. And so
I just hope that Timeless is included in the trade.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, really. Obviously it's the second chapter of your story about what's happening to Luke and everything. Did you hear from Luke fans that wanted a more street level and go, hey, what the fuck is this or whatever?
Honestly, no. Most of the Luke Cage fans who we've met have been like, you get it. You're like, we love it. Honestly, most of the people that we run into are Luke Cage fans who are like, wow, you're doing something totally different and weird with Luke Cage. So like, that's been actually really gratifying. I think it's everybody else. I think it's like the people who aren't going to pick up a book because Luke Cage is on the cover are looking at it and being like, what is this?
I'm like, dude, why is this a Luke Cage book? It's like, Kirk, you weren't going to buy a Luke Cage book anyway. Like, get off our back. Like, the real heads, this one's for the real heads. And the frustrating thing, though, is if they had picked it up and taken a look at Bernard Chang's art, they would have been like, oh, shit, this is cool. But, hey, comics are an industry built on basing an opinion, basing your opinion of the book by its cover. So, that first page is always the hardest step.
And I think Bernard's work is, and look, that's not a knock on our covers. Bernard's work.
No, I was going to say these are great covers.
Yeah. Bernard's work is, I think, impeccable and really to the Marvel sort of framework in this book. I hope people take a look. He does all this stuff with like text on screen. He does a lot of like really incredible force perspective stuff. Like we always pitch this is Dragon Ball. This is like cosmic Dragon Ball. Just big fights, big stakes, big energy, big ideas. And Bernard like never let that, never saw a big idea he didn't want to tackle. It was a joy working with him. I hope we get to again soon because really he kicked ass on this book.
That's cool. And I also have to acknowledge the wrap up to NYX, which I thought really went well. And, we had talked prior to issue 9 coming out as well. And I loved how Xavier regarded the NYX kids. And everything that was some really great characterization, and that was part of the One World Under Doom plot line as well, guys. But issue 10 was great, and again, a very different, weird story. I mean, you guys are very into the weird, and I think that's great.
God bless us. We love the weird stuff. You can get straight stories, not straight stories, but you can get down the straight middle stories from a lot of places, and a lot of them absolutely kick ass. You got to come to us for the weird stuff.
I think I don't think it doesn't always need to be weird. Like, by which I mean, like, Last Starship, I wouldn't necessarily categorize as weird. I think there are weird things in it, but we actually hold our weird pretty intensely.
100%.
Yes. I get it.
Star Trek gets weird sometimes, but plays it still pretty straight. Our Captain America book played it pretty straight. Like, I think but then like our Guardians gets very weird.
Yes. Your Outsiders gets
as weird as we've ever gotten. Yeah, exactly.
Guys, by the way, I'm so glad you recommended to me. You got to read it if you love Planetary. And I will tell people, hunt through your back issues and get Jack and Collin's Outsiders, because it really is a sequel to Planetary in the best way.
Oh, thank you.
And it really, it was excellent, guys. Thank you for recommending it, because I love it.
My pleasure. Honestly, it's a book it's a deeply difficult book to write. It was a deeply personal book. We really loved it. We're so thankful that DC gave us the opportunity to do it, because that really is one of those other things where you're like, I can't believe they let us do that. But that is, I think, for us, the last year and a half has been a weird year. It's been a year of, Collin went through his wife's pregnancy, and then obviously the child. My house burned down at the beginning of our Guardians run, and I went through an extended period.
Sorry, man. I forgot.
It's fine. It's just like an extended period of sort of not like homelessness, but like we didn't have a home for 6 months. Like, there's been a lot of displacement. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the world that is really distressing. And all of that, I think, has led us to, especially when writing in like big pop culture frames, to feel a little bit wasteful if we're not trying to push it as hard as we can into being something we haven't seen before, to be something new, to be something interesting. And inevitably, we will not always produce fully baked work. I think inevitably when you do that stuff, you're going to end up with some things that are like, wow, that was wild. Because like, you're trying to be on the vanguard of something. If you were knocking it out every time, man, you'd be Tom King. I don't know. Like, you'd be somebody else. We're not that. We are a little messier. We're a little jazzier. Part of what we're trying to do is push this form forward wherever we can. And we're going to take some odd risks along the way. And I think like the fact that we happen to be at Marvel and DC when we started to take most of the biggest risks we've taken in a while, you know, that was, I'm really thankful that Marvel and DC allowed us to do that. That's that's wild. Yeah. We're going to take some time. I think to us, we got to a point where I think we felt like we were running so many very intense, very wild ideas all going at the same time. And none of them were like coming together into a cohesive whole. They were all just like, which we wanted to do, but never quite worked for a lot of different reasons. Instead, it was just sort of like, this book's over here doing crazy stuff, and this book's over here doing crazy stuff. And I think once we put down Bucky, which really felt like the story we'd been telling the whole time, and as we put down Kamala, which was the other story we've been telling for
NYX, absolutely.
In NYX and then in Giant Size, which ends tomorrow. Giant Size X-Men #2 out tomorrow is our last. That I don't know when our next Marvel book will be. Like, we'll inevitably, I'm sure we'll do more work there, but right now we're finishing on Giant Size, and then we're going to do Last Starship alone for a little bit.
Right there. FOC is this week. So if you have been excited about hearing about Last Starship, go ahead and tell your local retailer that you want to get on board the USS Omega for the end of things.
Yeah, it's September 24th. Book will be out.
There you go.
So inevitably, I think what we've learned from that time at Marvel doing the weird stuff was that, like, when we play in the superhero form, we really like to do something. We like to take left turns. And sometimes that can take you to some really weird and interesting places because comics are so imaginative, you know, because they're built on this wild imagination continuum. So when you take a left, there's just more territory, you know?
Yeah. Well, again, your left turns are appreciated. And I'll wrap up if you guys got to get going. I don't want to keep you longer than you have to be. But remind everybody again, yes, so Giant Size X-Men 2, is it out this week or is it out?
Yeah, Wednesday.
All right, it's out Wednesday. Excellent. And that wraps up the Kamala story that started at NYX.
And I'll say we've had that last page of that book has been our last page for Kamala since we started with Kamala. Like we've been waiting for this moment. We've been building to this thing. We talked to Sabra Perzada about this before we ever came on the character. This is like what we did with Bucky. This is the culmination of a thing that we always kind of planned to do. And it's I'm really happy that we were able to close this loop. I'm very thankful to Marvel and to Tom and to the whole X office for having us during this like wild period of X-Men. It's been good.
Is there a reason why it became giant sized and not 11 and 12 of NYX?
They were always kind of different projects in Tom Brevoort's mind, I think. Okay. I think it basically like NYX was always the book that Kamala was going to be in up to a certain point. And then, but I'm not sure it was ever going to be like a launch title for him until we came in and we were like, we really want to do this.
Yeah.
It wasn't like one of the core set absolute launch titles, right? For that From the Ashes line. It happened because we came in and we said, we really want to do something with this. Giant Size was something that he knew he was going to have all these anniversaries coming up. 50th of Dark Phoenix, 50th of Giant Size, 45th of Dark Phoenix, I think, or 40th of Dark Phoenix, 30th of Age, 15th of House. It was going to be, I think, 15. Then it was going to be like a lot of these landmarks were all coming up at the same time. And he said, wouldn't it be cool, since Kamala just became a mutant, wouldn't it be cool to take her on sort of a Christmas Carol style journey through X-Men history? So new fans who are coming into X-Men for the first time can experience those things a little bit, but also so that existing fans could approach them through Kamala's lens and understand what they have to teach her about being a mutant and try to help integrate her into mutantdom a little bit more than just the fiat of she's a mutant now, right? This was sort of her journey of like, okay, but what does that mean? What do I care about? What is that? And that was fundamentally different than NYX. NYX was a street level community book about the kids in New York learning how to deal with being post-Krakoan. And coming back into human society. Giant Size X-Men was about Kamala Khan traveling through all of X-Men history, experiencing the breadth and depth of what it means to be mutant. So fundamentally, those were two different books. And I think our hope had initially been that they could run simultaneous. So you could take Kamala into Giant Size and then run NYX for one more arc against that. But ultimately, NYX only got 10 issues. That's what happens, at these companies.
As ChemDog says in the chat, it's a fickle business.
Indeed.
Business. And so we sort of really used Giant Size as our way of closing off all the thematic question marks that we had left behind in NYX. And it kind of became the third arc of NYX as a result.
Well, and I was going to say, I would assume that when it is traded, the second arc will include these X-Men chapters. I hope.
That's an interesting question. I bet it doesn't, but that's a really interesting question. The idea of if you ended up collecting the run as one omnibus, you should put Giant Size in it, probably, because it's the end of Kamala's journey. And otherwise, the Kamala ending in NYX is kind of a downer. But
I was going to say, yeah, man, exactly. And truly, the whole thing of Kamala's cousin in NYX and being against, the mutants, not realizing that his own cousin and everything is part of the problem.
Even when
good punch, good
and then even when Bilal, that's the thing, is that like, how does NYX end with Bilal, learning that it is Kamala and still not accepting her, right,
and turning away and walking away.
Bilal is not. He's not a hypocrite on his fundamental belief that this is wrong. He's just wrong about his fundamental belief that this is wrong. Right? Like Bilal is misguided, but he's not a hypocrite. And so that idea that that would hurt Kamala more to know that, like, oh, this guy stood by his principle, and his principle was that I'm bad. And that sucks for her. And she needs to come through a journey that takes her to the other side of that particular idea, which I think is what Giant Size is very much about doing, is putting the lie to that. Because obviously that's not good.
But I do hope that the second trade of NYX ends with and Kamala's journey will continue in Giant Size X, right? Like something that's like, if you'd like more, go read this other thing that does not have the same title and actually has a crazy numbering system. But we swear to God, this character's journey will continue here, and it will absolutely pay off and kick ass.
There you go. Absolutely.
That's the title. That's the full title on the spine.
Yeah. Long, big book.
Real small title.
Well, it's a good back cover, so I can appreciate that. James, the Medium Answer, wants to know, what old shows from the early 2000s, late 90s do you think more writers should watch? Interesting question. I'd say Prophet right away, if you remember that Fox show from 96, 97.
I remember Prophet, yeah.
Found out Howard Chaykin wrote the 9th episode, and they canceled it after 8th.
Amazing.
So he told me that on Sunday.
Howard. I am a big. So Collin and I are both big Sliders fans. Sliders was a big one for us. I think the reason why I would ever recommend it to writers is just to think about the idea of like how episodic storytelling engines work, because I feel like we've kind of forgotten that. And Sliders did a pretty good job of creating episodic story engines that felt exciting. I was always excited to see what the next idea was that they would hit. I think it was a good engine. I'll go on record as saying we have a really great take for a Sliders reboot. So we would love to someday do Sliders. That would be fun.
I forgot about that pitch. It's so cool.
It's so good. Our Sliders pitch rips. We've had it for like 10 years.
Have you talked to, and now I'm blanking on his name, but of course, First Officer
Jerry O'Connell. Oh no, 100%. Man. No. We're one step away from Jerry O'Connell, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I will bring it to Jerry O'Connell when I'm ready to bring it to Jerry O'Connell. Trust me. I'm not going before I'm not going at the king until I can't miss. You know what I mean?
I hear you. But Quinn Mallory's story needs to be retold.
I think Quinn Mallory's story needs to continue. I got questions about Quinn Mallory's story.
Yes.
So that's
Sure.
that one.
I'll go with everyone should watch. I don't know if it's good for writers, but I think it's good in that it's a great way to highlight how to do something that is both fun, weird, and incredibly serious and interconnected within a weekly framework, which is the seminal sci-fi feature or seminal science fiction show Farscape. Everybody should get, if you haven't watched yourself some Farscape, go ahead and strap yourself in for some primo weird science fiction that I can think you can fall in love with. I'm surprised you didn't go with Babylon 5, Jackson.
I don't recommend Babylon 5 now that J. Michael Straczynski stole Captain America from us. No, I'm kidding.
Hilarious.
Complete joke. I'm joking.
I understand.
I literally have.
He's in England. He's asleep. He's not watching this.
Great.
About it.
I literally have within reaching distance of my desk the Babylon 5 encyclopedia.
Wow.
I have several of JMS's script books in my bookshelf over there. I'm a product of Babylon 5. It's probably the single most important thing that ever happened to me in terms of like, other than meeting Collin, like, and my wife, like Babylon 5, like shaped my brain. And I remember there are things about it that I will never forget. There are things as a writer that I will never not have instincts for because it taught me those instincts. I think people who like Babylon 5 will fucking love Last Starship. Like, I think we are playing not the same song by any stretch, but like a song very influenced by the kinds of stories that are involved in that show. So yeah, no, I mean, I just didn't want to be a cliche, but
no, of course.
I love Babylon 5. I am intrigued that I'm hearing Warner Brothers wants to reboot it without JMS, which is, it's almost like they waited until he left the country. No, yeah. I hear you, Collin. I understand, and it's
we'll see.
I guess you're right. And a lot of remakes are unfortunately misguided and don't work out. And I'm not talking about new Star Trek when I say that. There's plenty of other examples of that.
All these things will outlive us ultimately. The idea of a Star Trek without Gene Roddenberry must have been completely anathema to people, before now. And now, I think we're always going to be looking at these things as how do they evolve past their creators.
Sure.
That said, the soul of Babylon 5, I think, will always be built entirely, and probably the actual words across the page should be built entirely by John, because what JMS does so brilliantly in that show is take all of his influences, all of the things that matter to him. It's very personal work.
Yes.
You can tell he loves epic fantasy because he puts technomancers in there. You can tell he loves, this particular author or this particular storyline because he puts it all in there. That more of our science fiction should be that personal. I hope, I don't want to reboot Babylon 5. I hope we get to do something like that someday.
Yeah, I hear you, man. James wants to know then what comic book series would you
James, you're killing me.
I know. I'm sorry. You want to wrap? We can
last
wrap.
Last question.
Last comic, kids. All right, here we go.
You want comic recommendations?
Yeah, and I agree. Starman, he says he's heard good things about Starman.
Oh, dude, yeah, read Starman.
So
if you're even thinking
Planetary for that period, for that matter.
Yep. Planetary is the best comic ever written.
There you go. All right, there we can end it at that. IDW's Last Starship coming in about a month. Final order cutoff is what day?
8/20 or 8/18, depending on who you're talking to.
Okay, 2 weeks away.
I'd get in there on 8/18 just to make sure.
Yeah.
Play it safe, kids. But again, find your NYX trades and Thunderbolt second arc, and of course Power Man Timeless. Also, all coming up from Lanzing and Kelly. And guys, as always, fantastic conversation. I love what you do with Star Trek. Keep on doing it as long as you want, and we'll keep on reading it.
Oh, thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
And everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.